All right, June 12th continuation. This is on the let me read this. British Country House Needlepoint by Frances Kennett and Belinda Scarlett. And I hope I didn't mix this up, but in my last video, this part two. Hi there, Melanie. Create That's What I Do. I am making this needlepoint cushion right here that you see. This is the needlepoint cushion. And when you see my, what do you call it? Those little thumbnails, you'll see my interpretation based on the chart that's made that these folks did when they went to these expensive places. And just quickly, I wanted to expand on this one because it's a huge project for me, very much uh, done differently. But what I noticed about this, okay, I'm going to say, what attracted you to this project was, to me, like in my thoughts was like, okay, this somewhere around 1892 to 1891 to 1892, and it's the arts and crafts movement, but in with a few little differences. To me, this couch is relatively contemporary. So it has a bit of a, I guess, a arts and crafts feel, the works, but I could, me personally, I could put this in my house and just feel fine with it being somewhat contemporary. Kind of like it's a period style piece, but it has a certain like plain lines to it that I think this kind of furniture stands the test of time, quite frankly. Just stands the test of time, right? That is just sort of like the Swedish vibe. That work is just stands the test of time. So you could be like, no, it's not modern, as in furniture today, but it's quite the look. And what I really attracted me to this was, he's these are supposedly these are greens. I think that was in the book, but this can easily be used for just literally these colors. They could be used for, I personally think, something for today. Like if you had a black couch, or you had a green couch, or if you did this in grays and blacks, because you had a black couch or a gray couch, and you just had that pop of color right there. I think these designs could be used for today quite easily, or in the standard style that it's there. That's kind of what really attracted to me. It's like vintage, but kind of classic, and has, you know, could possibly be used for modern today, depending on how you work your colors, right? So I'm going to read a little bit more about this because it's a big, huge project for me, and this really a big part of the story. So, William Morris was this expensive guy, and he did real well. And to continue, the house was planned as a modest weekend retreat for a large London-based family and sited adjoining a much older building, the home farm of the property. I've read that before. This tile-hung structure influenced the architect so that Standen has a modest exterior, but inside it is rich indeed, filled with beautiful art furnishings, some from Morris' own firm. So everything, to interrupt real quickly, all of these designs in here are not Morris's in this book, but this one is. And embroideries, ceramics of all styles, hand-woven carpets, and a great collection of original Morris wallpapers and textiles. The most characteristic color used in the decoration, particularly the painted wood wall paneling, is a soft blue-green, part of the palette used for the hand-woven. Morris designed cushions chosen here. They are symmetrical and make great use of colors of close tone, a style much favored by Morris in his work. I think he was really forward thinking, William Morris, very forward thinking. Any embroiderer visiting the house would find years of inspiration for the craft. Many of the William de Morgan tiles not William Morris, but William de Morgan tiles, lend themselves perfectly to execution and canvas work. In the hall is an embroidery of Morris vine pattern executed by Margaret Beale, the wife of the owner. There is a portrait of her by Sir William Nicholson, in which she wears a pre-Raphaelite loose robe and concentrates on her knitting, indicating her enthusiasm for handicrafts. Several rooms of the house contain needlepoint cushions worked by members of the family. The dining room, most beautifully paneled and painted soft green, is filled with Chinese blue and white porcelain and contains original Morris tapestry curtains in its peacock and dragon design. The dining chairs, a complete set with chintz needlepoint seats, each varied with a mythical beast in the center, were almost made by the family over a period up to the 1920s. As is common in earlier 18th century pieces, the borders of stylized leaves are in what they call grosse point, and the central motifs is in petit point. That's another, I guess, method of needlepoint. I think it's about the canvas. Margaret Beale also took charge of the garden, which was left very much as she had created it when the house was given to the National Trust in 1972 by her daughter Helen, not as simply natural, in quotes, as the architect would have perhaps wanted, but filled with brightly colored and unusual plants. The garden adds to the general impression of a much-loved home for a creative family. Okay, so the billiard room and stand-in shows how every detail of the interior was chosen to create harmony. A wonderful setting for Morris' timeless designs. Yeah, his designs are really timeless. You know, they could be a little bit updated maybe with the fabrics or the dyes or the coloring or maybe the choice of colors. But I truly do think his work is quite timeless, and that's why he, appeals to me. The work is just very, very timeless. But yeah, it's all up to if you're doing this work, the interpretation of what it is that you like, obviously. But yep, then again, I think that's the drawing of the house. Okay, so this one, and the only other one I'm thinking about doing out of this book, let me pause, is maybe, the center pillow, maybe, okay? And let me pause this. And this one is Leeds Castle. I'm not thinking about doing this, but I might, but for something different. But in my video about this book, in the previous video, part 1, this is what I was saying. You could really take a modest sized chair or a small sized chair, and you see how they have this cushion. So let's say you wanted a cushion. I'm thinking out loud, okay? You wanted a cushion for like maybe one of your chairs or something, maybe half the size, maybe less thick, however much stuffing you want in the chair. That's a beautiful example of that. So you can get a cushion for any chair, and you see how the cushion's not attached to the chair, it's on the chair. So it's like, okay, and then the back is done, and then the sides are done. So like this gives an example of that, but this is in Leeds Castle. I'm reading it. It's as far, it doesn't say anything like it's a William Morris design. I don't think this is a William Morris design. I'm pretty sure it isn't. But the Flemish tapestry woven fit portraying adoration of Magi, and the design shown here. Around 1500, I think is what this is saying. The year 1500. The Thorpe Hall room contains very fine 18th century furniture, including an embroidered fire screen and a curious card table with a petite point, that's needlepoint, design depicting a flower basket as a center and playing cards and loose change scattered on its surface. That's not pictured here, just we're looking at the chair, right? Our other design is taken from a Charles I oak armchair, possibly recovered at a later date. It sits in John Money's office, the administrator who worked closely with Lady Bailey, and continues to run leads to her standards. A workroom nearby occupies two seamstress embroiderers who do careful conservation work on the bed hangings, chair covers, and wall hangings. So these tapestries were, quite a part of their world. Excuse me. Hopefully this is inspiration, and so if you have a chair but you don't have the pillow part, and maybe if you're fixing the base part of the chair where you sit, beautifully done, there's just a pillow over that's needle pointed. So I'm gonna go find the other one I'm considering. There's quite a few of these I would actually make in this book, but I have other needlepoint works I want to look at and do. So I'm like, if I had about 25,000 years to live or something, but it's like, so one of their tapestries that's in there. I'm gonna pause. For some reason in this book, this is one of these ones I'm considering doing. So I think this is a picture of the original work, right? But what time? 16th century maybe, I think. And it's got that bird. See? It's got the bird. And I'm like I said, I'm not one for animal life and pillows. Maybe a leopard print or something, but nothing where I'm going, here's a full animal. But for some reason, this really appeals to me. So it says here, a detail from the Sudley Sheldon tapestry exemplifies the vivid, tactile pleasure of the woven work. The authenticity of the floral designs is one of its chief qualities. Sheldon tapestries woven in Barcheston, Gloucestershire, that's the place, in the late 16th century, are considered the finest English products of their age and stand comparison with European ateliers. Okay, so Gloucestershire, Barcheston, Gloucestershire. Is that England, Wales, Scotland? I don't know. Somewhere around there. There's the chart. But what happened now is looks like they're making this, so reproduced in colors inspired by the original tapestry. The Heron and Flowers project left is a detail from the country scenes depicting contemporary Jacobean pastimes among the aristocracy. The chart can be used to make a favorite cushion cover, but is fine enough to merit framing as a picture. And what happened was I looked at the original one. I was like, oh, okay, whatever. But then I saw the reproduction and the colors that they're doing there. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is gorgeous. So that's the reproduction that they're doing with these colors. And there's a bit of the chart, but that's what's of the original. Over the years, the dyes fade out, and whatever sun they've been, so yeah, fair share of the needlepoints can be hung as wall hangings. But if you notice, anything that I've seen in these old vintage books, they're not framed in glass. Maybe some are, but they're not framed in glass. They're framed in, they just hang them. They just have the tapestry out hung, and there's no glass over the tapestry of the needlepoint. But I guess if you'd like to protect your work, you know, and have those type of considerations, or you just like glass. This was their interpretation, color design of this pillow. So here's the pillow. See how different it can look? The same, but different. That's the original pillow. I don't know. Yeah, this is, because there's their chart. There's their calculating the yarn amounts. Right, these are the original colors. And then these are the colors that they used for this. But this looks kind of like, was there another pillow? Or is this their work on the pillow, but they've had it for quite some time and maybe had sun exposure? I don't know. This looks like the pillow done twice, and it's not done by the authors. But I could be wrong. You know, that's William Morris' genius in pattern and coloring are well known, and through the continuing popularity of his designs, alternate colorways for his designs suggest themselves quite readily. Ochres and deep red were chosen because, I'm reading this here, because they remind us of the interest in handmade objects, wood and ceramic that Morris promoted. Color schemes based on nature's combinations are in sympathy with the stylized flower shapes. Very interesting. Very interesting work. And I still say he just has a timeless look because the work is so, I think somewhat abstract, like compared to what was happening then at that time, right? You know, it was like, wow, look at this. What is this? So that's the larger portion of that excerpt on the this is an Elizabeth Sheldon tapestry. It's in this book, Sudley Castle. It was made at the famous English Sheldon factory, reveals the sumptuous intricacy of the whole piece. And this was another one that, who made this? Well, maybe I'll get more into this book some point. But this is the work. This is the actual whole one. This is the work. And I'm not quite sure what petite point is, but it's needlepoint. And this is the works, right? Right here. Or cross point. The Sudley tapestry is in its entirety is a sumptuous display of flora and fauna amongst the serious subjects based on the theme of the expulsion from paradise. Lies a wealth of contemporary detail like these scenes of hunting dogs and partridge and flowers. The chart over leaf derived from the hunting picture could be made into a cushion or a picture. The colors of the original are too appropriate to inspire alteration. Okay. So they give a little bit of the chart on that, okay? For this one, I think it is here. And this piece here, when I'm telling you, this is something that's going on there. But you can see here, I think that's where they took that part for the cushion. If I have this right. And if you go a little bit more, and were to go into the detail, you could see the detail in this work. is, I mean, amazing. Truly amazing. You could look at this. There's another one of the birds. And I'm gonna see if I can find out what year this is. This is quite a large tapestry, and I think, let's see, among these is a famous tapestry made by Ralph Sheldon in about 1611 as his factory at his factory in Warwickshire. The weaving factory had been started at Batcheston in 1561 by William Sheldon in an effort to provide an alternative to expensive foreign imports and to provide work for the local poor. The tapestries at Sudley were undoubtedly the finest made in England at the time. Okay, so I read that already. So Queen Elizabeth visited the castle several times, but with the coming of the Civil War, its favored life came to an end. Lord Chandos, then owner, defected to the Parliamentarian side. Sudley for a while became a Roundhead garrison. I have no idea what that is, and was eventually in large part demolished to prevent it ever becoming a royalist stronghold again. So this had something to do with that whole war thing or something. And Lord High Admiral of England and Baron of Sudley and Lord. Okay. So yeah, this go back to something about 8th and 9th century, and its pedigree is ancient and very distinguished. What do they mean by that? Ancient Romans and the Saxons used. Sudley Castle lies in the rich, soft countryside of Gloucestershire. Gloucestershire. I'm sure I'm murdering the pronunciation on that word. The ancient Romans had a settlement here at Belasnap, and the Saxons used nearby Winchcombe as the capital in the 8th and 9th centuries. Its pedigree is ancient and very distinguished. Suddenly became the property of King Ethelred the Unready, who came to enjoy deer hunting and valued its large oak forest trees, then being a measure of worth in the way that olive trees still are in the Mediterranean. Ethelred's daughter inherited the land, as did her son. Ralph de Sudley, a crusader knight. Ralph, her son, who is Ralph de Sudley, a crusader knight. The present castle was built by one Baudelaire, admiral of the fleet under the Henry V and VI. He became Baron Sudley in 1441, but unluckily for him, the tide turned with the Wars of the Roses, and he was forced to sell the castle to England to Edward IV in 1469. It continues to be the home of royalty, and Catherine Parr, the only wife of Henry VIII, to outlive him, remarried Thomas Seymour, Lord High Admiral of England and Baron of Sudley. Okay, so these are these people. And I think this tapestry is somewhere around the 1500s. Or maybe 1800s. Well, it sounds like they had this factory going from this warehouse type of deal from the 1500s, but when exactly the tapestry is, I still can't figure it out. And I'm not reading out the whole thing because it is what it is, right? But this is what you're looking at right here, okay? Isn't that incredible? That's truly amazing. So you're talking, this tapestry is like hundreds of years old, and this is I guess it's the rendition or the drawing rendition of what this looks like. All right, to give you a brief history on some of the book, just a little bit more information if so interested, and there's more to it, but I don't know if this book is still in print. And there you have it for now. But these things were really huge. I don't know. Does that chair look like it's embroidered, or is it a tapestry, a needlepoint? But here is one of the chairs. Just a brief look at that. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you're inspired. And God bless. And well wishes from the universe, of course. Bye for now.